energies were present in you. You were having a difficult relationship in the house, and difficult balance to strike at work, and then you meet what that gives you the answer.
Okay, so it was, I think my journey is probably common to most people. You don't always get the answer handed to you on a plate very easily. There's a search.
Yes.
There's a search, and we talk about that often as a spiritual search, or it's like in all cultures, all traditions, there's this idea of the human search for meaning, the human search for discovery. And I believe there's a saying, I believe it comes from the Sufi tradition, that's like, I looked for myself and I found God, I looked for God and I found myself. And it's sort of like, you don't know necessarily what you're looking for in the beginning. I mean, I certainly probably have been often in my life dealing with the who am I question. And if you stay with that question for long enough, you discover it. But so it was in stages. So for like 5 years, I studied a Taoist presentation called the Universal Tao. So it's maybe a commercial. Well, it's been formulated for Westerners to understand, but the person who has formulated that way, he lives in Thailand. His name is Mantak Chia. I studied that for 5 years, and because I was interested in those practices, they have some practices, like specifically for men and specifically for women, and they're for the health of the male and the female reproductive organs. And I became interested through this book I told you about, Passionate Enlightenment, and then I read other books as well. I became interested in Tantra, but of course I'm a bit reluctant to use that word because of the numbers of different presentations that Tantra has and the number of different ways it's been distorted and people have different understandings of it. But I became interested in this idea that the amount that I read at that time was just that, okay, this was my understanding at the time was it was a non-patriarchal system that looked at masculine and feminine and their equal but differing contributions. So when I first came across the concept of Shiva and Shakti, I was thinking that Shiva and Shakti were a bit like yin and yang, which they aren't, by the way, but say that up front. So I was interested in this. Was there a tradition here that had teachings which could show us what were the qualities of the divine masculine and what were the qualities of the divine feminine, and how we could transform our distorted presentations of the feminine and the masculine? What would life look like for any of us if we had a paradigm which is not patriarchal, which is weighted towards the masculine, but one that was genuinely recognizing, because I come to the viewpoint that there was no true equality within patriarchy. It was like everybody was making a compromise for that equality. There was only equality where women accentuated their inner masculine, and the feminine in both men and women was stunted. And I believe that's why we have many of the problems that we have in the world. Even we talk about environmental issues, all the destruction in the environment. If we're truly honoring feminine and masculine in nearly all systems, the earth is considered as feminine. So why would we not be honoring the earth, which is referred to as Mother Earth in many traditions? It's like, and why would we be dishonoring women in many, maybe even most cultures in the world, if we are understanding the differing but equal contributions of feminine and masculine? Because when I'm talking about the feminine, it's not like, okay, it's the feminine that needs to dominate, and it's like matriarchy as opposed to patriarchy. It's not. It's like, what if both are honored equally? How would that improve our world? How would that improve our relationships? And of course, how would that improve the deal for women? So through her, I started to understand that Shiva and Shakti are not yin and yang. So we're not talking about movements of energy. So we're talking about a as I learned to understand it, and we're talking now, I mean, we've talked about, these are the Hindu deities, but this is the esoteric explanation, if you like, of the deities. So it's non-patriarchal. So my understanding and the way that I explain it to other Westerners is it's like a pictorial quantum physics. Now, because of my mixed education, American and English, somehow or other my science education did get a little bit confused at school. So I'd never properly understood physics. So I have learned most of my quantum physics this way. And
from Shiva and Shakti.
What a wonderful way, with these beautiful goddesses and all the dresses and the stories and stuff. It's a lot more fascinating than a lot of quantum physics books, although I will read those now. But so if we could go Shiva and Shakti, so Shiva is, so if we say the basic building blocks for creation, you have to have consciousness and energy, the basic building blocks. So Shiva is consciousness, the ground of consciousness. Shakti is his power to create. And that's why you always see them in union, because you can't separate consciousness and the power to create. They are one. And God in all traditions, all religions, is seen as one. God is oneness. We are not, seen as this perfect oneness. So here we have God as Shiva and Shakti together, an honoring of the masculine and feminine together. So Shiva is consciousness, or the ground of consciousness, the containing principle. So we could say it's a bit like, if we talk about like the ocean and the wave, or the air and the wind. It's all air, but the wind has a power to create. The wave is the power, but it's still water. So it's a bit like that when we talk about consciousness and energy. It's all they're all one. They are one. They're not separate. But in this case, we're looking at them separately for the purposes of looking at their different functions. So when we go to Kali and why she's standing on Shiva, because he's her ground, she's the power. So in this presentation, the feminine is power. All energy, all power is feminine. And of course, we're talking about the feminine and the masculine here as a genderless concept, because all men and all women have feminine and masculine within. So now we're going to the psychology. But then we've got the question of, okay, well, maybe women have a little bit more Shakti, right? And then why would you depict it that way, that the power is feminine? Well, I think in these ancient peoples, they're always looking at, you're looking at your answers in life, and it's women that give birth.
Yeah, creation.
So what gives birth to so it doesn't make sense from logical thinking, that what gives birth to the whole universe would be depicted as in female form. So the power to create comes from the female. Of course, the masculine has a role in it. Of course, they're never separate.
They're one.
They're one. But the actual power to create, the gestation, the birth, in human form, the breastfeeding, that comes from the female.
And thus the form to depict that power is female. I got that.
So you have so that's why you've got the one Shiva, they've all got the same husband, the one Shiva, the many different Shaktis, because energy, when we look at moving from energy into form, we have all the different forms of creation. So when we talk about yin and yang and Shiva and Shakti, no, Shiva and Shakti are not yin and yang. In these Indian traditions, the two movements of energy are seen both as feminine. So you have the Dakini movement, the Yogini movement, and the Dakini movement. The Yogini brings something from space into form. The Dakini takes it from form back to space. So then when we're talking about individuals and their fears to possibilities and how I use it, often what I'm actually doing is working with the Dakini movement, people's fears, their fixed beliefs about themselves, their emotional obstructions, like, we have in the world a lot of people having anxiety, other things like that. But these teachings tell us, all teachings in physics, energy can't be destroyed, but it can be transformed. So we can transform those distorted, that's how it would be seen in the system, those distorted presentations of energy back to the pure wisdom energies. Because in this system we see that there's an original mind that we all have that is linked to the pure wisdoms, the pure consciousness. So we are all the divine feminine and masculine. We all have that capacity, that possibility. But we're all, because of our conditioning, culture and stuff, we all have some distortions.
Yes.
But what we're wanting to do is help the individual to be as much of their divine presentation as they can. And recognizing that we're all unique and we're all individual as well. Because we are all representations. We could say we're all representations of the divine feminine. Of women and men.
Of one consciousness.
Yeah, and one consciousness. We're all that. So how do we're all God. God comes through the eyes of every single human, every single life form, the dog, the cat, everything. We're all different, but we're all representations of that oneness. And so if we see it like that, the way that I see it is like, okay, it's like a beautiful, huge jewel, and each one of us is a facet of that. And so how can we have a world where every single facet is not important to the whole?
How beautiful. You have actually, my question would have been to you, from a person coming from a Christian tradition, normally the millions of gods and goddesses in Hinduism really are very confrontational. And they say, oh, you don't even have one god, but you have actually, in one stroke, said that there is actually just one god in Hinduism as well.
Yeah, there is just one. It was very confusing to me at first because